Hey church family, one of my favorite stories in the Gospels is found in the Gospel of Mark chapter 9, where we're told that a man came to Jesus and told him, "Teacher, I brought you my son who's possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not." Verse 20 tells us that they brought the boy to Jesus, and when the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately threw the boy into a convulsion. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. Jesus asked the boy's father, "How long has he been like this?" "From childhood," he answered. "It has often thrown him into fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." "If you can," said Jesus, "everything is possible for the one who believes." Immediately, the boy's father exclaimed, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." You know, what we didn't read in this story is that this incident took place right after Jesus had returned with the disciples from a literal mountaintop experience. They had just come from the Mount of Transfiguration, where the disciples had seen Jesus standing alongside Moses and Elijah. But now these disciples were baffled because they weren't able to heal this boy, despite the fact that Jesus had given them the power to heal. In Mark 3, verses 14 to 15, we're told that Jesus gave them this authority. It says he appointed 12 that they might be with him, and that he might send them out to preach and have authority to drive out demons. So then, why weren't they able to heal this boy? Jesus asked the boy's father how long his son had been like this, and the father said, "Since childhood." He pleaded with Jesus to do something to help if he can. The father's words revealed his doubt, and Jesus challenged this father to believe. And the father replied, "I believe, help my unbelief." So Jesus rebuked the demon and restored the boy. Following this, the disciples took Jesus aside privately and asked him why they weren't able to cast out the demon. And Jesus told them, "This kind can come out only by prayer." Apparently, the disciples were trying to heal by relying on their own strength instead of seeking the power of God, and it backfired. They were putting their faith in the gifts that Jesus had given them to be able to perform this healing, and this time it hadn't worked. It's a familiar story. God gives us gifts, and yet so often we'll trust in those gifts instead of the giver. The disciples did it, and if you've been with us in our series on Samson, you've seen that he did it time and time again. The father in our story knew he was unable to help his son. He knew his faith was weak, but he also knew that Jesus was the answer to both of those problems. He sought the Lord to both heal his son and increase his faith, and Jesus did in fact do both. And it all happened because that father turned to Jesus. He pleaded with him in prayer, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." May this story remind us that prayer is what strengthens our faith and demonstrates our reliance on him. Prayer is what grows and matures us. Prayer is what keeps us in close fellowship with him. Prayer, even when it's a confession of weakness and doubt, is an act of faith because it's turning to God for help. May we follow the example of the Father in our story and come to Jesus with our doubts and with our needs. Amen.